How's it going, Ryan? I'm good. All right, we ready to roll? Okay. All right. Per usual, I'll start with a quick opening statement and take some questions. So, putting a bow on the Sacramento State game, obviously a pretty exciting afternoon at Mackey Stadium. Probably a lot of frustration in spite of the fact that we got the win with just kind of some of the ways that we allowed that game to be different than it probably should have been. In spite of the fact that we gave them 4 extra possessions, 2 on punts and 2 on turnovers, we were still able to have a 7-minute plus advantage in time of possession. We had 23 first downs to their 15, outgained them by about 80 yards on offense. It kind of had a feel very much like the Georgia Southern game did a year ago, where we're kind of dominating them at the line of scrimmage and we're kind of doing what we want to do between the 20s, and we're bogging down in the red zone. And so, that's obviously the emphasis is, hey, we've got to be better schematically and operationally when we get the ball inside the 20-yard line and score touchdowns instead of settle for field goals. And then we can't allow extra possessions to be a part of this. I mean, we've got to play cleaner in really all 3 phases from that perspective. But I do think that there was a very different vibe on the sideline as the game continued to progress. And our guys, especially on defense, continued to rise to the challenge and make the plays that they needed to make. And, Thomas Whitty hitting the quarterback's arm in that situation, and obviously Jonathan coming up with a big play. There were some real positives, especially on the defensive side. I thought we continued to tackle well. I think we're playing with physicality, and I think there's a lot of things that we can continue to build on. And so the obvious thing is we've got to get better play from the quarterback position so that we can move our offense forward. A big part of that is decision making and not just the operational part of it. And so with that being said, we'll move on to Middle Tennessee. This is kind of what I told the players yesterday when we did the Sunday reset is, don't buy the lie. I mean, this was a 3-win team a year ago that's 0-2 on the season right now, but watch the film. This is a talented roster. I think that Coach Mason has gone out and added talent pretty much at every position on this roster, with some transfer additions on the offensive line, specifically at outside receiver. They've got a 4-year starter, number 5, that is a jump ball guy. Number 1, both of those guys made Randy Moss-type catches against Wisconsin last week. And if you press, this quarterback is experienced. He's a 4-year starter. He's thrown for almost 8,000 yards in his career. He's got a positive touchdown to interception ratio, so he makes good decisions. There's not a lot that he hasn't seen in college football. He's played a lot of football games. I think it was his 32nd career start against Wisconsin. And so when you have a guy like that, you're not probably going to fool him a whole lot, and he's going to make good decisions. He's definitely the straw that stirs the drink. And they've added, they've got a couple of running backs, number 9 and 28, that are a good complement to one another. They're a good 1-2 punch. But they are dynamic on the offensive side of the ball, and it starts with the quarterback and his ability to stretch the ball vertically. So I think that's something that's going to be a challenge for us this week. From a defensive perspective, I think this is a really good front 7. I mean, I like their interior D-line. 98 and 91 are both really active, good players. They do not stay blocked. They're compact and twitchy. They can move well within the scheme. 9 is a 4-year starter. It's kind of funny. They have these 2 guys that are captains. One's a 4-year starter at quarterback. One's a 4-year starter at inside linebacker. And he's maybe not as big. He's a tall, rangy guy, but he really runs well. And so, if you get to the second level of the defense, he's a guy that can track you down, and he was very active against Wisconsin this last week as well. So I like those guys up front. I think that front 7 is real. I really do. Veteran back end, again, some pieces that they've added. And so that's kind of modern college football. You kind of got to get a couple of games on them because you don't really know going into it, hey, who are these guys? And maybe they were on a roster at, a Michigan, like one of the transfer wide receivers, maybe wasn't getting a lot of playing time, but he's got a really good skill set. There was a reason he was at Michigan initially, and then one of the top junior college prospects at wide receiver in the country and number 1. And so I think this is going to present a real challenge in terms of what they do. They're a heavy game plan outfit on offense. I think they're creating more of an identity this year. You see more consistency in what they do than you did game to game last year, and that might have been some of the matchups that they are more favorable for them with the wide receivers that they have on the field this year. And so I think that's going to be something that's interesting. Coach Mason is a defensive-minded head coach. He's a veteran head coach, obviously spent a number of years at Vanderbilt, very familiar with the West Coast with his time at Stanford. Arizona guy, and so I see a lot of the DNA of the things that they did at Stanford on defense, some quarter half, playing some cover two, not a ton of match quarters, but it's a good football team, and I think it's going to be a good test for us. So happy to take any questions.
You mentioned the pass game for you guys. I guess what are you seeing in that right now?
Well, I think we've got to be more accurate. I mean, that's the one thing that stands out. I mean, there's some layups that are available to us on the field that we've got to take advantage of, and so I think it starts with being an accurate passer and being a good decision maker. And both in the run game and the throw game, Chuba had some issues on that on Saturday. I mean, it's not all what the layman sees is an open receiver or a ball that's not accurately thrown, but there were some things in the run game also that led to negative plays for us that were pretty good looks for us if we just pull the ball or keep the ball depending on the look that we're getting. And so it starts with decision making. My thing about quarterback play is always the same: decision making, accuracy, and leadership. Those three things. And Chuba has the leadership in spades, but he's got to be a better decision maker with the football, and he's got to be more accurate when we're throwing it.
How much of that is just going to come with more experience? It's not like he's played a lot of football.
Yeah, I think the days are long, but the time is short. How much time do we have? That's the question, right? And so, we've got to push the envelope on this thing and get this thing correct as quickly as we can. I mean, I owe it to everybody in this building to make sure that we put the best product out there that we can. And as always, the quarterback position is going to be examined with a closer lens. And as I told Chuba yesterday, hey, man, when it goes good, you and I are going to get way too much of the credit. When it goes bad, we're going to have to accept the blame. And so, in spite of the fact that we got the W, there's some glaring issues that we've got to resolve there.
What are your thoughts just on the wide receiver group and what you've seen thus far? Obviously, that's a big part in the passing game too.
Yeah, I think that when we've had opportunities, it's been pretty good. Obviously Marcus is we've got to move him around a little bit because he's not big in stature, but he's a good route runner. He's a reliable receiver. I think you see Jet starting to emerge as a good target for us at the tight end position. It was good to see, even though we got it called back, we had a chunk play to Marshawn. That was the first time that he'd been able to be on the field for us this year, coming off a little bit of an injury. And so I think that's a group that's just going to continue to get better and better and better. A transfer that didn't play a lot in the spring because of a groin injury is, Dakota Thomas, and he started to kind of show some flashes. We had a little bit of a janky fall camp at that position because we had a guy up like Nate Floyd, who was like he's practicing lights out, and then he's got a groin and he's down for a week and a half. And so the chemistry with the wide receivers is one of the things that we've got to really pay attention to and generate.
It seemed like a lot of the first quarter, Chuba was taking a lot of the carries, and then the whole ground game came on board with the running backs getting big plays. I guess what did you see in the run game as the game went on against Sac State?
I think some of it comes back to the decision-making part of it, right? You don't have to play hero ball. I mean, there's 10 other guys out there. And so we took some of the reads off of the runs, which make them automatic gives, and we hit some pretty good runs on those. And so that was a part of it. Was kind of let's take the reads off of this and let him just operate, and that helped him and it helped us because we were able to get some ground game going pretty efficiently.
Did you feel like Sac State was maybe a wake up call to the team that you can't just go out there and expect to win the game? It sounds like you kind of said yesterday to Shannon that it was like the Super Bowl for Sac State. Did they bring more emotion?
There's no question. You just look at how he called the game in the first quarter. I mean, you're going to go for it on fourth down, backed up. You're going to pull the ball with the punter. You're going to hit a double pass, reverses. I mean they emptied the playbook, and that's what you're going to get with an outfit like that. But here's the thing I'll tell you about Sac State. Okay, that is a talented group. Their skill level is upper echelon in that league. And you saw, an Eastern team that came in here last year, they just didn't have that kind of skill at the perimeter positions on offense or defense. And so I think this is a team that's going to do really, really well in that league because I think they've got upper end talent at the skill positions. And I actually think that they're going to be better with number 7 at quarterback than they are with number 5 because I think he fits what Coach Marion does on offense better. There's more of a run threat, +1 run threat, off-schedule plays, triple option. That stuff is harder to defend than the conventional drop-back game, which was Rashada's strength. So I think there's an aspect to that I think maybe that will be better for them moving forward.
In terms of your team's message coming out of that game, what do you want them to take in terms of?
Well, there's two things. I think number one, and I kind of alluded to this yesterday, is if you watch the film, that was a physically dominant performance at the line of scrimmage on both sides. Like they didn't block us, and we put guys on their back every play. And so when that happens, generally speaking, the result on the scoreboard kind of handles itself. But some of the things that we didn't operate well, the turnovers, the extra possessions that we allowed, were the things that made that game what it was. And so the second thing is found a way to find a way, right? Like that's, like a year ago we lose that game, and that's it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, ask Middle Tennessee State if they wish they got a do-over against Austin Peay. And so week in and week out, Kansas State escapes against North Dakota. These guys have good players, man. And this is a big game for them when they come into these environments as FCS opponents. And I think also the proximity and the recruiting was a big part of the push that they had there. And so I feel like had we probably played with a little less anxiety, that our operation would have been cleaner. And hopefully that's part of learning this too, is when you play the game together, a lot of times you get a feel for who these guys are and kind of the psychology going into the game of how to get them in that sweet spot where they can go play free and fast.
Where do you think the anxiety came from? Just like wanting to do so well or being at home for the first
I
time?
do think that these guys really do care a lot about each other, and they want to do well for their teammates. They want to do well for this community. And but it's never any one individual. You got to kind of take a deep breath and go do your 111th. And I think there was maybe some guys trying to do a little bit more than their job.
And that extends to Chubba as well. Did you see that in him?
Yeah, I definitely felt that on the sideline. Even on the first drive when we had some tempo stuff, it was a little bit frenetic. And I thought he might calm down as the game went on, and I think he just continued to press.
Looking at your defensive line, I mean, it seems like the two ends have played really well, and obviously Thomas had a couple of really big plays in the fourth quarter. How would you just describe how your line has played defensively?
Yeah, I think those guys have gelled well. I think there's some pieces that we've added. I think Sam Cook is a guy that takes a few reps off of Jonathan and Dylan and allows those guys to be fresh. And he's a bigger, more physical guy. Does a nice job holding up in the run game. We've got a guy named Miles Williams who's just now cleared a Cal transfer who I think is going to add some value to us maybe as soon as this week. And so we're excited about him. And Nelson Rapati continues to be kind of the steady Eddie inside. Maybe doesn't make all the flash plays, but does a lot of the dirty work and keeps the backers clean. And I think we continue to tackle pretty well in space, and I think that was a positive. And that's one of the things, actually, I feel like that Middle Tennessee does a good job of. They're a good tackling football team.
Is Miles first eligible for this game, or was he for the Sac State game?
I think he's going to be cleared to maybe get a couple snaps in this game and see how the week of practice goes. I mean, I would hope that he's going to be kind of full ready to go once we get past the bye week, but we'd like to get him these last two non-conference games, get him playing a little bit so that, we're not asking him to go out and play 40 snaps against Fresno without the right build-up.
What do you think he adds to the group?
Maturity. He's a good pass rusher. He's thick enough to hold up in the run game. He's a versatile player. His 2023 season at Cal was a really good season, and unfortunately he got nicked up and had an ACL early last year, and so now he's just kind of working himself back into play. And so I think it'll take him a minute to ramp up, and that's why we want to try to get him going a little bit.
I mean, it doesn't seem like Dylan has like all the measurables maybe you would want for a defensive end at the FBS. Maybe I'm underselling him. What has made him such a quality player, maybe despite some of those physical limitations?
Yeah, he's very coachable. You show it to him, then he asks the question. You see him like in the back end. You'll see him when his rep is coming up, like let's say in one-on-ones. He's actually visualizing it and going through it. Like he works beyond the white lines to be a good player. Number two, he has got an extremely high motor. He's powerful. Yeah, he's compact. He's not long, but he does have a pad level advantage. So when he gets under guys, they're going backwards. He can forklift dudes. So he's explosive and strong, and I think he plays the game the right way, man. He's passionate and gritty, and I think that rubs off kind of on the rest of the group too.
Where did you guys hear about him?
He was at Butte College. We were kind of looking for another piece, and we thought, well, maybe he's more of a linebacker body now, but he showed the ability to do the pass rush stuff, and it was just kind of one of those deals. Like we kind of brought him in, and you get around him, and you're like, we need this guy in our program. This guy has something.
You see as the keys to this Middle Tennessee game? I know the results haven't been very good so far, but it seems like you're pretty bullish on the talent that they have.
Yeah, I do think that they've vastly improved their roster from a year ago, and so I think that the quarterback's ability to operate because he's seen it all, and he's gonna you give him a coverage look, and if you give it to him and it's vanilla, he's gonna know right where to go with the ball. There's not gonna be any hesitation on his part. If you press number one on the outside and he sees single safety, he's going to take a shot. Kind of reminds me a little bit of SMU's offense in that regard, maybe without the tempo. in that, they're looking for certain things, and when they see them, they're gonna attack them immediately. And so I think there's some of the things that we've got to do is mix our coverage looks. Always starts with stopping the run because both of these runners are capable. And then the other thing about 11, while he's maybe not the most dynamic runner in the world, this guy will get you a dirty 10. Like he'll make off schedule plays and he'll move the chains. And so I think from a defensive standpoint, we got to try to keep them off schedule as much as we can, because when they're on schedule, they operate really clean. And so that's a part of it. How do you create a negative play in here and there, get them off schedule? They're going to take their shots. And so we've got to win a good share of those. They're going to make some plays down the field because they do have talent at receiver. And so some of that comes down to affecting the quarterback. Some of that comes down to playing really good in the back end.
Maybe the difference really was just Penn State versus Sac State, but 270 yards on the ground, 5.7 yards a carry, three guys really factoring into the run game there. Why was that so successful this past weekend?
Yeah, I think our offensive line played well. I think it always starts up front, and those guys played really well. We were able to move those guys off the ball. They muddied it up at times, but there's times where, again, if we make a better decision in the read game, that negative play here or there turns into a positive for us. And then when they felt like they had to defend Chuba and we weren't really reading it, I think that created problems for them. Where, when you have a quarterback that is a run threat, that's always going to create that +1 advantage, if you will. And I think there were times that they got out of their gaps when they were worried about 13 pulling the ball on the edge, and we were able to crease them. But it starts up front. And I'll tell you another group that very much unheralded, but our tight ends absolutely dominated the edge. They were physical. 85 and 11 man, Jason Jett, those two guys, it was impressive. If you just want to, watch some guys roll off the ball and destroy people, those guys did that pretty consistently. And we blocked really well on the perimeter for the most part, too. We had some physical blocking on the perimeter, whether it was our runners getting out in space and doing it or our wideouts. And so I think that was the difference that I see, like in Sac State on the perimeter. They didn't do a great job of getting off blocks. This group does a good job on the perimeter of getting off blocks. Middle Tennessee does.
It's like 12 personnel, kind of what you want to be running consistently, or that type of production from the running game with the two tight end sets and the three kind of running threats out there. Is that something you want to see every
Yeah,
week?
I think that's got to be a part of who we are. I think Jet and Jace are two of our best players on offense, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have them off the field. And I think that there's other things that we can do out of 12 personnel besides just line up and bash the ball. But we've got to continue to kind of evolve in that personnel group.
Given the runs that Chuba, 21 carries this past weekend, and given his injury history, what level of concern do you have with the hits that he's taken?
Yeah, I'd like to see him get down a little bit. I think he maybe one too many cuts at times. Just like, hey, know when it's time to take it to the next down here, and realize that you don't have to make every play. And I think that's a part of that pressing that we talked about earlier. And so, I think he got out. He was a little sore yesterday, but he got out of it pretty good. And I think that's a positive for him moving forward, is that he's taken some shots and he hasn't broke. And so let's keep doing what we do.
You guys are really good on third down and in the red zone last year, I guess. Only 2 games, but hasn't been at that level. I guess what is going to be the key to, like you said, punch it in and get 7 instead of 3?
I think we've taken some negative plays, which has been really gotten us off schedule in the red area. And I think that's been one of the problems, where we get off schedule and we don't get an opportunity to get into the low red. We're kind of hanging out on the fringe. And I think so, winning first down when we get a first down in the red area is one of the things that's going to set us up for third down success. And unfortunately, we've taken some negative plays there and gotten off schedule. But there was also plenty of opportunities for us to just operate on basic things. There was, clearly we had an uncovered receiver that was, we just got to play pitch and catch. We had a third down where Jace was wide open in the flat, and it was really just get him the ball, let him do his thing. The last fourth down of the game before they threw the pick that we went ahead on, we probably threw that route 10 times in practice very accurately, and it just wasn't an accurate throw. And so I think that's the area where, you got to operate at a higher level when you get closer to the goal line, because the windows are smaller in the throw game, and you can't start a drive off with a negative play.
You can look at 20-17, it's an FCS team, and be like, I don't know, but it sounds like with the physical dominance and maybe some of the misses that seem like easy plays, that you're pretty optimistic that things.
Yeah, I don't think that if you're watching the game and you're not paying attention to the scoreboard, you're not feeling like this is a close football game. And like I said, when you give them 4 extra possessions and you still possess the ball for 7 more minutes and have almost 10 more first downs, like that tells you how dominant we were at the line of scrimmage in that game. And that's what was frustrating for everybody, for the fans, I'm sure, too. You know, like, that's, like, you know, can we just punch this thing in? You know, and we let them hang around. We allowed momentum to be on their side for the majority of the game. And that's what happens. They gain confidence, right, as the game goes on. And I think that the one thing I'll say, man, our guys kept playing. And there was never really a sense of panic on the sideline. Just go make a play, man. You never know what's going to happen. And sure enough, you know, they choose to throw it on second down. And Thomas hits his arm, and John makes a play. And, you know, does that become a catalyst for us? We'll find out, you know.
You mentioned maybe the different vibe or feeling on the sideline. I'm assuming compared to last year. How would you describe the difference between those two?
I think the guys just support each other in a more positive way, you know, regardless of what the outcome of any drive is. You know, let's go to the next one. You know, there's going to be frustration when you give up a big play on defense, or, you know, you turn the ball over on offense. But I think the collective group, you know, I saw Thomas Whitty going down to the offensive huddle multiple times, you know, encouraging those guys. And I think that's a really positive thing for our culture. And I think that there was there's an element of this that says to me this was a culture win. You know, like, they dug a little deeper and found a way. And that's, you know, that's kind of who maybe we're going to have to be a little bit. I think we're going to play a lot of tight games.
Obviously important in tight games. I know that was an issue last year. What's been your just assessment through the first
You know, I
quarter?
mean, I think it's been a mixed bag. You know, I mean, obviously, like, I don't get, we're in safe punt and Logo runs into the punter and we give him a first down there, and we're, you know, the guy's on the goal line and we don't properly force the kick. I mean, that was not a scheme thing. That was just do your job. And I don't think it was honestly a called fake. I think he just saw a bunch of green grass and took off. And, you know, again, our defense had to play 17 more snaps on that series because of 2 special team snafus, right? Good news is we held them to a field goal, right? And at the end of the day, there were 2 things that stood out to me when you look at this, okay? We had 1 turnover in the game. It resulted in 7 points. They got 2 turnovers in the game. It resulted in 0 points for them. And so, again, our defense responding in sudden change situations and putting the fire out has been a real positive for us this far.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.